If you've been paying attention to what's happening in the world of gaming, you may be aware that game books and interactive fiction are back. They are a thing again. Now, they may not be as big of a thing as they were in the 1980s when they were most popular, but still they have a dedicated audience of fans. There are publishers that are coming out with new stuff, writers that are writing interactive fiction, sometimes only available like for the Kindle or in digital format. Sometimes you can purchase a physical copy. Definitely there is an audience for this. And what is interesting also is that the audience is different from what it was in the 1980s. At that time, these books mainly marketed children and teenagers, so they could talk about certain themes but not certain others. There were certain themes and tones that were not explored because too dark, too mature, inappropriate. There was a strong emphasis on adventure. The most famous line of books of that kind, Choose Your Own Adventure, had the word adventure in the title. Finding Fantasy also has to do with action right there in the title. So with the return of the game book, they were experiencing something else is very interesting. That is, the audience is not exactly the same. Now, children, teenagers, believe it or not, are still reading them. My 7-year-old daughter loves Choose Your Own Adventure books and interactive fiction. Her classmates, same age, also love them. But then we also have a dedicated audience of adult fans, 30, 40, 50-year-olds that still enjoy this type of fiction. That actually allows interesting new expressive possibilities because now writers can talk about stuff that they couldn't before, they experiment with new formats that would not maybe appeal a child, but again, now there is an audience of mature, sophisticated, discriminating game book readers that are able to understand and appreciate a different type of discourse and game book. A long introduction for The Rooms. The Rooms by Stu Howarth and Yves Tourigny is an example of this new trend of mature game books or mature interactive fiction for adults, for a small audience of dedicated fans, not just to be read by as many people as possible. It is an experimental interactive book. It is avant-garde, so to speak. It's very different from any other interactive book that I read before, mainly for the format, as you will see, and partially also because of the tone, atmosphere, and content. In this review, I will try not to give you spoilers. I'll do my best. I don't think I really will tell you anything that will spoil the experience. I will have to tell at least about the beginning of the adventure, what you're trying to do in the story. Although, as you can see, and you will see, the word adventure may not be the best one here. I will tell you about the general setting and what you're trying to do. And also I will show you the beginning of the book and some of the pages to show you how the book is constructed. The book comes, in reality, as you can see, 3 separate booklets that, as I understand, are handmade. They are put together by hand, and they're held together by a cover and a band. The Rooms, so you remove the band and then you open this, the cover, and then you have these 3 booklets that form a single book, as you can see from the number. You have to imagine as being part of the same volume. And as you can see, there is something strange about them. They have a lot of folded pages, hidden content that is revealed by opening the flaps, sometimes one way, sometimes the other way. The general idea is that you will start reading and you will make decisions based on the options given to you by the text. You will given a map of the place that you're exploring. I don't think this is a spoiler. You also have this card here, which is your cell phone. That is a reminder of what the main icons do. During the game, you may encounter these icons, and you will cross off these boxes here to indicate that your battery is being used. You may take notes in the space here on your phone. I think it's adorable that, we live in a digital world, and now we have something, as you can see, is intensely tactile, is manual. It has a very strong physical connection with the real world, with you, the reader, as an actual person. It's an analog form of entertainment, and you even have the analog version of your digital phone. So you use this to make notes, and also you may be instructed in the book to write or draw something on it. Also, from time to time, you will encounter a symbol, and then you will have to cross out a box on this track. And when you reach these numbers here, then you turn to the corresponding page. By the way, general idea is that here you're told, see on the side, you have numbers that indicates the number of this page, that is the first page, the first side of the page, or the physical page, and then the other side is on the other side. Well, the other number indicates the other side. This icon simply means open the flap and see what happens. And here, for example, you will have some text that you would read, and then you're instructed to open the next flap where you discover something else and something new. Sometimes flaps are organized like this. That is, a page as a physical object is divided in several pages in the sense of units of content, and then you simply follow. If you're directed to 33, then you read the text on the other side. If you're directed to go to 34, then you leave this flap and see what's there. 34, leave that flap. As you may have seen in passing, there are several images, there are several illustrations which really are useful. There are also maps. There is a general map of the place that you're exploring. In a certain sense, it's almost like a parody of old game books or old fighting fantasy, which were about exploring places, but those were exotic places, jungles, dungeons, temples, castles. The idea that you were navigating a mysterious, incomprehensible, dangerous space was at the core of so many game books of yesteryear. What happens here is different. The story. You're living in a building, and one of your neighbors is this old strange man, and you're not sure you even know his name exactly. Another neighbor is a young woman that you're kind of like flirting with. There is an ambiguity there. You're kind of trying to impress her. For reasons that are unclear, your neighbor, the old guy, is arrested, and the apartment, as you can see, sealed by the police. And one night you decide, for unclear reasons, unclear to you the reader and partially unclear to you the character, decide to go and snoop around. So you enter the apartment and you start exploring it. And I hope it's not too much of a spoiler. Pretty much early on, after you're given the general context of the story, which I summarized here, you're showed a map of the place. And you enter from here, and then you simply explore the place by turning to the corresponding place, the corresponding pages. So if I want to enter the hallway, I turn to 27. If I want to exit, I go to 96. When I start exploring the hallway as the story progresses, I'll be told the number that corresponds to the hallway, and I can write it here so that if I want to go back there later, I can go directly there. I don't have to go through the arrow that leads there. So then after I experience what happens in the hallway, maybe I go to the bathroom, so I go to 46, which generally will give me a description, maybe an image of the area, maybe it'll give me the option of doing several things. Sometimes the menus of options are visual, that is, you're given an image of the room, and then you have numbers written in the image on the things that you may want to look at. And if I want to look at a certain thing that had a certain number written on it, then I simply turn to the page with that number. And it's like I'm zooming in. It's sort of like a point-and-click adventure only. Very, very fun idea. So you go around, and as you can see, instead of exploring a mysterious dungeon of a necromancer, you are moving from a bathroom back to the hallways, having a look at the kitchen, what's in the dining room, what's in the bedroom, and so on and so forth. So why? Well, what's the big deal? Why would you be doing so? Because you start looking around this apartment slightly strange things appear to be going on. You start noticing that there's strange stuff that should be there in the house of a normal person living there is not there, and stuff that really shouldn't be there is. Now, don't want to give you spoilers. Not much happens. Not much happens throughout the book. The presentation I gave you is fairly accurate. You go around, you look at rooms, you see the description of, you see an image of the room, you read the description of the room, you quote unquote point and click on a certain item, you learn more about that item, about the detail as your avatar in the story interacts with it. And it's just, there's weird stuff, but again, not incredibly weird in most cases, just like, well, this is really strange. This is slightly out of place. I would say that is the point. There's a strange, uncanny feeling that everything is perfectly normal and okay, and yet there is something slightly out of place, which is a very different effect to attain in fiction, because it's very easy for things to look just, banal and trite and obvious, or to look strange and exotic. To give you that feeling that you're not sure if you're making it up in your mind or seeing it. Is it really strange, or am I thinking of it? Am I perceiving it as strange? Is a perfectly normal apartment in which I'm imagining that something weird may going on? Or is this just, something that's a place that is not what it looks like? And this is the general idea. So actually, for most of the book, the ambiguity is almost, I would say, about the genre. What about the genre that the book belongs to? This could just be a sort of minimalistic story in which you go around the house and you think that maybe you're crazy, maybe not, which may be about existential loneliness, about the difficulty of understanding ourselves. You can find a variety of possible interpretations for why even that plot, or lack thereof, in which not much happens, may have some interest, may have some symbology, may create some discourse about who we are and our place in modern society. Or the genre may be different. The strange uneasiness that builds up throughout the book may be indeed the preparation to a payoff that comes later. Maybe instead of being an existential story about an empty house that represents our inner emptiness or something, maybe instead of being that, it is a slow burning horror, sci-fi, fantasy. Maybe the strange sense of uneasiness that you perceive throughout the book is the build-up for something that happens later. And the beautiful thing within interactive fiction is that maybe it's neither, maybe it's both, depending on what you do and where you go. Speaking about the physical construction, I was afraid as I started reading it that it would feel gimmicky after a while, but it really did not. The flaps are not gratuitous. I felt that they really add to the experience. Why so? Because in the old choose your own adventure books, fighting fantasy books, but in general in analog interactive fiction that you read by flipping through the pages, you get a sense simply as you move around the text of things that may happen simply because the images flash in front of your eyes, whether you want it or not. And so if I see a certain place in the background with a certain monster in front of it, and I'm not there yet, I simply see it as I'm moving around. And then maybe I know something about the kind of monster that is in that location, and it's the type of information that I shouldn't have when I reach that location later. Maybe there is a treasure chest with a snake coming out of it, and I just see it, and then later I found the treasure chest. Should you open it or check for traps? Interesting. So you had the kind of like spoiler that simply comes from the fact that the illustrations are physically visibly available in the book as you navigate the analog text. Not here. Not here, because the stuff that maybe you shouldn't see too early is under the flaps. So I didn't find it was a gimmick. I didn't find it was one of those lift the flap books that my daughters loved so much when they were younger. That some of those, I was pretty creative too, but this one is more creative. because as you go around, you only see by mistake things that are irrelevant. If you want to see what's behind the door, you have to lift the flap. If you want to see what's under the bed or under the carpet or behind this or that thing, well, you need to lift the flap. I found this to increase the atmosphere, the sense of immersion of the book immensely. And the book in general has really, since in any case, whatever happens, not much happens, the sense that the book is permeated by the sense of stillness, of silence, of emptiness, of void. If it is a horror story, it is a horror story that Beckett could have written. Which is, again, it's about atmosphere and the symbology of useless things that are scattered around. And the fact that you do not see the illustrations casually, you have to go look for them, adds to that sense of emptiness. As you flip around, the book just feels so empty. There's so much white. There is much more white in it than you would see in most interactive fiction, because, well, in that type of interactive fiction, you need the text, and the text is readily available for the readers, not just to read, but to see as they are using the book. So it's a fascinating book to me. It's a fascinating experience. Very interesting, very, very different, ambitious, definitely ambitious, but not pretentious. If game books or if interactive fiction can be avant-garde and can use the interactive form, the branching form in a creative way, well, The Rooms is definitely a text that does that. I enjoyed reading it. I wasn't say it was fun reading. No, not exactly. Fun is not the point. It's more like the kind of strange entertainment that you have when you see a movie, maybe like Rosemary's Baby. But again, everything seems perfectly normal, and yet you feel like something else may be going on. The Rooms by Stu Howard and Eve String. Definitely an interesting, definitely enjoyable, very different, but very effective work of interactive fiction.